Hello, welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host Neil Magnuson, and this is a show where we talk about THC, you know, truth, hope, and change. And also THC, tetrahydrocarbonate, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we had court this week, and actually on the show today we're going to have Glenn Wells, as always, join us for the 420 session, and we've got Ms. Medibles here from Edibles Calendar, and we're going to have a little bit of a visit, just a short one because it's really a miserable day out there, but we're going to go and check in on the CSP Healing Wave tent. As you may know, unless you didn't see the show and you don't know, the CSP Healing Wave RV was firebombed a week ago Sunday, and burned basically to the ground. And at this point, while we await a new vehicle that's coming shortly, we're working underneath a tent in the winter time in Vancouver in the cold and wet. So not terribly thrilled about that, but that's where we're at. And on another nasty note to do with the CSP, we were back in court on Wednesday. They are going to proceed with a pre-trial conference for us for selling cannabis without a license. And we're going to go ahead with that December 13th. But what I wanted to bring up about that is that we were given disclosure, and it is so disgusting. It is like I'm just so disgusted by all this. This is what they've given us. There's well over 100 pages here of all kinds of different stuff. I think for me the worst of it, other than the outrageous cost involved in putting all of this together, is that they say that my designation, if you will, what comes up for them when they check me out, when they run my plate, I guess I'm not going to bother putting that in there, is that I am pro-marijuana and I am anti-police. And I think that to be profiled like that is very troubling. I'm certainly anti-attempt to prohibit free people from accessing plant medicines. That's for damn sure. And I think it's horrible that we task our law enforcement people, our peace officers, with the job of trying to make sure that people don't have possession of or aren't producing or trading in these particular plants that they've decided are somehow so dangerous in a world full of tequila and other things, that we shouldn't have them. In fact, they're so dangerous that if anybody has anything to do with it, they're going to use the criminal law against you, and that's just a really, really big hammer to use against something that, you know what, you've got possession of some plants, probably because you felt it might help you feel better, or maybe you're going to make some money off of it. But where is the horrible crime in any of that? Where is that something where there's victims involved, where there's damage of significance involved? Where is any of that involved that would justify making it a crime in a free country to access or have possession of or produce plants? Plants. Oh my God, this has been so crazy for so long. So yeah, I'm kind of pro-marijuana. I mean, I would be even if there wasn't prohibition against it, because it's a great plant. I mean, I'm sure we would all recognize, if it was just a reasonable world, that of all the plants in our environment, the roses are beautiful and other ones smell really nice and all the rest of that. But the real one that does us so much good is that cannabis plant, because we can use that for fuel and fabric and fiber and food and medicine and all these other great things. And it smells pretty nice too, and they're pretty beautiful flowers as well. But, you know, for free people to be prohibited with the criminal law for accessing a plant is got to be one of the biggest crimes against those free people that I can imagine. This whole thing, we're approaching 100 years. In another month and a half from now, it'll be 100 years since Minister Belland, a Liberal backbencher, stood up in the Canadian Parliament and announced that there was a new drug in the schedule, and that drug was cannabis. The other ones, by the way, were the smoking version of opium and cocaine that had happened prior to that. In fact, Canada was the first jurisdiction to have federal laws against these plant medicines, and that's very shameful in itself. But for it to have now gone on for 100 years is incredibly shameful. If we could calculate the amount of dollars that's been spent on that, if we could calculate the amount of ruined lives that have happened as a result of that, the torn apart families, the young people who got involved in much heavier drugs because cannabis was illegal and it became a gateway to those other drugs, all the damage is incalculable. You can't even put it all together. But what we can know is that it's got to be one of the most horrific crimes that's ever been committed against free people. And I say that in all clear conscience, knowing full well what many of these other crimes against humanity have been. But the attempt to prohibit cannabis and the cost of that to society has been incredibly immense. And like I say, very difficult to actually fathom how much damage has been done. But with so many people, because it ripples out, right? It ripples out all through. Like when you're caught with cannabis and now you're going to be given a criminal record and you're going to go to court and you might go to jail. I mean, your whole family is disrupted. It's not just you as an individual who's had your life interfered with in a way that's going to be quite harmful for you. That makes a lot of sense, right? The government has deemed that you're involved with a plant that might do some damage to you. That's their excuse for the whole thing, is that could be harmful. And so because of that, what they're going to do is hurt you real bad. They're going to hurt you way worse than that plant could ever hurt you. No marijuana, no bag of cannabis or weed has ever harmed any individual, anything close to the harm that's done when you're now in handcuffs and now you're before a judge and now you're paying penalties and now you're going into a cage for a while and now your marriage is broken up and your kids won't talk to you and your family thinks you're a drug-using scumbag and all the rest of the shit that's gone along with the lies that they've told about people using cannabis to justify their intense war against those people. It is one of the most terrible, terrible things that's ever happened, and we're coming up on 100 years. And maybe it's all fitting. Maybe this is all what's meant to be. Maybe the universe is a weird place where there's some sort of an intelligence that plays games with numbers and years and with situations. Because here we are coming up to 100 years, and what I'm involved with, the Cannabis Substitution Program, is at the cutting edge of trying to get proper legalization, to properly make amends or correct this wrong path that we've been on for 100 years. And now we're scheduled to go before the courts on all of this. And we're going to kick their butt. Because just like in the beginning when they prohibited cannabis, they've got nothing. They've got nothing. Yeah, selling cannabis without a license. Where is the damage in that they're going to be able to prove in court? Where is there any victim that's going to come into court? They don't have anything like that. They don't have any potential harm that I could be doing to this neighborhood or the people that we're helping out with accessing cannabis at cheaper prices than them. You see, because cannabis isn't even illegal anymore. It's not dangerous to the point where the government's going to sell it to you. You can walk right into government stores and buy that stuff that they had to use the criminal law against people for all that time. Wow. Wow. Can't be that dangerous if that's going on, can it? And it isn't. So we're going to go into court and we're going to say, well, not only is cannabis not dangerous, but it's very, very helpful. And we started what we're doing after a year into this public health emergency of overdose deaths from a poison drug supply, opioids and other street drugs being contaminated with fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that's killing people at alarming rates. And cannabis is actually the best answer for that. The best answer for that. Because the best answer for that is to quit. If you're involved in ingesting substances that could contain toxic fentanyl or just kill you by itself, the best way to avoid that kind of risk is just to stop doing it. But that's the kicker. You can't just stop doing it. People can't just stop doing those things when they've been doing it for a while, because of the dynamics of how it all works with building internal neural networks that have to be refilled every time, and you build a tolerance and you need more and more, and you can't quit without going through extreme physical and mental anguish. Can't quit. Except if you use cannabis. Then it makes it much, much easier. Hundreds of people are now members of our organization, and hundreds more than that I know of that have testified to me and witnessed to me that cannabis has saved their life. Those are their words. That's what they say all the time. Many, many people out there who are down that path of hard drugs say cannabis saved their life. And now it's true, because many people are dying more than would normally from just regular overdoses to those substances, which was happening all the time as well. Not as many as alcohol, by the way, and not as many as pharmaceutical drugs, by the way. But still, there was too many people. Any amount of people dying from an overdose of a drug is too many. But there were people dying from overdoses of these opioids and methamphetamines and other street drugs before fentanyl came along and made it really easy to die. Cannabis is the answer out. Cannabis is the way you get through withdrawal. That's the hugest thing. That's the answer. That's the best harm reduction solution that there is to this public health emergency. And we proved that. We decided we were going to do it because it needed to be done, even though it was still illegal, and we were going to prove that what we were going to do was going to work and going to help people and not hurt anybody. And that's exactly what we did. We set about almost 6 years ago now, handing out care packs of high-dose edibles to hundreds of people that would line up for them out front of Van Du on the sidewalk there. And we proved it. During the next 2.5 years of doing that, for the first year we did it once a week every Saturday. For the next 2.5 years we did it twice a week. But 2.5 years into the actual project, we had the City of Vancouver pass a motion to unanimously support what we were doing. They did that because of the science that had come in on what we were doing. The peer-reviewed studies that talked about the efficacy of cannabis as a replacement strategy for opioids was very clear. So because the science was there, because we'd been demonstrating it for 2.5 years, City Council passed a motion to support what we were doing. But then they wouldn't support us when we got a storefront to do it in because, well, they said you needed to have eventually Health Canada on board. So we presented an amazing application with all of the proof that we had come up with during those 3.5 years, because now it's 3.5 years that we've been doing what we've been doing. Lots more science. Testimonies from dozens, and we had hundreds of members, but dozens of them gave their testimony on video that we put together and sent along with our application to Health Canada. All the science, all the logic, and Health Canada has yet, over 2 years ago we put that in to them, and they have yet to approve our application or even just give us the temporary exemption that we also asked for at the same time. They don't have any good reasons for that. They have made comments during discussions we've had about how, ooh, that's a difficult one, you know, it's complicated because if we let you do it, then other people will be able to do it. It seems like all they're interested in really is the health of the financial end of the government cartel stores. They're not interested in the health of the people down here. And that's what's been displayed. But we're going to go to court against them, and we're going to bring all that into court. And we're going to show how Health Canada, 3 months after our application, told us point blank that we should have licenses by early January. That would have been a month after that meeting that we had, 3 months after we put our application in. And that's coming up to 2 years ago this coming January. And no licenses. 419. If you don't got them, roll them. You got 1 minute. So we're going to go into court against them, and we're going to tell our story. Also, by the way, the City of Vancouver, in the meeting that we had with them when they passed their motion, said that they would have licenses for us if we found a storefront as well. And then because we then needed a license from Health Canada, they wouldn't do it and didn't do it. But when we started this, there was no licenses to apply for. As soon as there was a need for that, we did it as quickly as we could and as best we could. And it's not us that are on trial. This is Health Canada on trial. That's what we're going to display in court. That we've done everything right. We've saved lives, hundreds of them, and Health Canada has been the big obstacle in our way when it's their job to provide exemptions and special licenses, especially during a public health emergency where we can prove and demonstrate that we're doing good, and we have. So we'll see what happens in court, December 13th. That's the date you want to come out and see what they have to say and see what we have to say. I hope you all come down to 222 Main Street. I think the time is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll clarify that as we get closer to it. I think the courtroom is 102, but there again, I'll have to clarify that to make sure, and we'll do that in the coming shows. But it certainly will be December 13th. It will be at the courthouse at 222 Main Street, and I look forward to seeing you all there. Well, that brings us to 420, and of course, you know what that means. If you've watched the show at all, you know that that means Mr. Wells is going to come and help us out for the 420 session. How you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. You got some MK Ultra for me today.
Yeah, I brought some MK Ultra.
All right.
Yes.
Nice. Master.
Apparently you got a lot of it. Oh, all right.
Well, we have a lot of things, you know. I have a lot of things.
The psychic ability wasn't working so well today.
And, you know, every strain is different, right? And every grower is different, and every crop is different.
So
really.
we did up in MKU. That's why I was mentioning it. All right.
And it's all fabulous anyway.
Oh, so you can leave half joints around, right?
Sure, why not? I'll pick up on that one later. Got a nice donation from, what's the name of that group? I had it written down there. We should know. It's the Only Wholesale Canada.
Yes.
Who've been big supporters of ours. And in fact, they kicked butt at, was it the Mum Cup?
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yep,
They had some great products there for sure.
Yep.
And so they've sent us a really nice donation to help us out because of the fire that we had in the RV.
Yep.
And the problems that we're facing here with the CSP. So thank you very much for that. Also, I'll mention the Medicinal Cannabis Dispensary last week gave us a great donation to help us get a new RV as well, to give us a portion of that.
Nice.
And today, the Mushroom Dispensary, the Coca Cafe, also has given us a donation. So thank you so much for that, and for everybody else. There's something else going on while we're on the topic here.
Well, yeah,
we got. Can you pull those two things out of there for me, please? Thank you, thank you. We have got, I just poked another hole.
Yeah, and then it's on the Cannabis Culture page.
So these are edible calendars. These are Advent calendars.
Yes.
And they're not the same. All are not created equal, apparently. This one is much heavier than this one, but they're still great. What this one has in it is 25 strains of cannabis. One for every day of that month, where Christmas is on the 25th, and you've got something to do for every day of the month. And this one has, well, about 6,000 milligrams of edibles in various portions throughout it. It's got 10 premier strains of cannabis within it. It's a hefty thing there.
It's a hefty box.
You can go to the ediblescalendar.com and see what it's there. You can purchase these if you're not going to be lucky enough to get your ticket pulled.
So these are gifts.
These are going to be auctioned off. They were gifts to us at the CSP.
Yeah.
Very generous donator.
Okay.
So we might get to know more of soon.
All right.
What do I do with my joint? It's 420. I'm not smoking. We're going to have a raffle.
A raffle. Okay.
It's already there.
All right.
You can see it on Facebook. You can see it on the Cannabis Culture page.
It's up there.
This is first and second prize that are going to be offered there. So it's $10 minimum donation for a ticket.
Yeah.
But what it is it's $10 for a ticket, because those people that are giving me more than $10, if it's 20, you get 2 tickets. If it's 50, you get 5 tickets. Yeah. And so that's what we're doing, and you can get in on this. And we haven't sold more than 25 tickets already.
Well, that's good.
And there's only like 5 days to go, because it's the 27th is the cutoff.
Okay.
And we'll, at that point, we will draw the winner.
Yep.
We will get our busy little elves packaging this up to ship it out to wherever it's being shipped to. Free shipping to get to where it's going. And then we'll announce it on the show.
You're saying it was Santa?
Well, he is the go-to for deliveries on Christmas, man.
People will have to dry 25 strains all at once.
Well, I think they have to open a couple other branch offices up there. The North Pole is getting awful swamped with orders. But for years, definitely, he's been the go-to for getting things delivered at Christmas time. Most of you kids out there know that your gifts came from him. So, so it's a wonderful thing that people are pulling together and helping us out. We don't know yet what happened with the RV.
No.
I thought by now that people would be telling us, that we would say, oh, well, this is such and such a group, and they're not happy with what you're doing there. And they want you to know, if you didn't get the message, that you're not welcome here. We have not heard that at all.
Just as we thought that person was.
Well, not as we thought, but as the only reports we got really were that there was some crazy meth head guy that was a firebug that was bragging that he had done that. Doesn't really make sense to me, but lots in this neighborhood doesn't make sense.
Yes,
so I don't know. It doesn't really matter, right? Yeah. I wanted to know because it was going to inform my decision with respect to what we do next.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a turf war here.
No.
I don't want to bring in another vehicle, especially if it's one that was given to us through some sort of a donation or something like that. Which it isn't, but I mean, if that was the case, these were the early musings of what's going on here. I didn't want to have it damaged and destroyed as well, just to further make the point. I thought we should wait a little while and just see what the street had to say about it. But we can't continue under the tent for much longer. It's just not okay. not sustainable through as the days get even colder.
And is there good news coming?
Oh sure, yeah, lots of good news. That's what I'm saying. I'm really thrilled about all the support that we've got.
Yeah.
I won't say yet until it's more here, but I mean we're going to have an announcement. I'm sure by next week's show we'll be able to go out and see what the new vehicle is.
Yeah.
I also reached out to the city, right?
Yeah.
And asked them if they could find us a space to protect us during this time.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing back from them.
Nothing back from us.
So I put out. That was a long letter that I wrote to Rebecca Bly, particularly, about the firebombing of the RV and where we're at now with all of that. And that's where I asked her if the city could find a way to exercise their power and allow us to operate from a storefront. And then I also went on with the second half of the letter talking about this ridiculous court case that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious,
wow.
It's way more than tens of thousands of dollars now. And that's what's so disgusting. That's being wasted on us. It's been over a year since they launched, get this, a Project Blaze.
That's what they called you? Project Blaze?
The VPD called this investigation into us Project Blaze. And it all kind of ended in a blaze, didn't it? And what do they know about blazing?
Wow.
What do they know about blazing?
Wow.
And why would a group that is primarily focused on edibles?
I think we should be wearing blazers.
Yeah. Well, we are blazing.
We want Cannabis Substitution Project or program blazers.
So why would they name an investigation into a group that's providing primarily high dose edibles? That is our focus. That is our main thing. That's what the CSP is all about. Why would they name that Project Blaze? I don't understand.
I don't know.
This is what I say. The universe is a weird place.
Yeah.
There's synchronicities that don't make any sense, but they do, and then it's like weird and wow. So anyway, more than a year ago, they entered into Project Blaze to investigate reports from VPD officers driving by that it looked like there was cannabis being dispensed from an RV.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Wow, what observant people these are.
Yeah.
You know? We had big signs out all over the RV.
Cannabis Substitution Program.
Yeah,
right
Cannabis
here.
Substitution Program, low barrier access point, all these other signs that, like, wow. And what type of an investigation is it where they don't even come and ask the main guy anything? Like, why didn't they come and sit down with me? Why didn't they come and have a conversation with me?
Because then you would know. And
But then I would know.
Change your
So these,
behavior
what are they, a bunch of international spies? It's fucking cowboys. Sorry, Annie Barbie, but Jesus. That's even worse, isn't it? I know
Does
that.
Annie Barbie actually watch?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right.
But she was. She
always
did.
part of the show.
She might.
Yeah.
I can't know, right?
I've never not given her credit, or
I
Annie
don't
Barbie
know.
will be listening
But,
or anything.
for all the Annie Barbies out there that don't like me swearing, and there are some, and it's okay. I'm fine with that. Of course, I shouldn't swear. It's not nice. I'm a nice guy. I try to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
But it's appropriate sometimes,
Yeah,
it
right.
is. It allows you to really give the emphasis that's required on something, and then some of these things are just effing terrible.
Yeah.
And so this is effing terrible that they would waste. How much money does that represent? All of those reports and all of those cops and all of they were undercovers, they were doing surveillance, they were set up with cameras and all the rest of it. How much money of our money, tax dollars, have they wasted to try to figure out if we were selling cannabis without a license? What a bunch of dummies. I mean, I presented the whole idea to the VPD board 6 years ago before we started all of this. That's where I went.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk to them? Why don't you go talk to your
They
deputy
do.
chiefs and see what they know about the Cannabis Substitution Program? I'll bet you if they'd have talked to Deputy Chief Steve Rye, that he would have told them that we're a good group, doing good things, that they've had no trouble with, and that we should be left alone at the very least. Certainly protected is a better idea, but if they're not going to protect us, they should get the hell out of the way and leave us alone. But I'm mad about this. I'm really, really mad about this. This is a whole bunch of money that they could have been using to save lives out here.
All right.
If we'd have had access over this last year to the money that our government just spent to have us investigated, we would have been able to save way more people than we have.
Yeah.
I'm really pissed off about this. I mean...
And how is it?
All they had to do was talk to me.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, haven't got my license yet. But yeah, we're selling cannabis because we need to do that, not for our purposes, which is how it started. It started because the city said they would support us in a storefront. And it was the right thing to do to get those people off the sidewalk, right? Mm-hmm. Like hundreds of people lining up twice a week.
Around the corner, too. Yeah.
Right around the block, standing there for hours while they waited for us to arrive and package and hand out these care packs of 4 to 6 edibles and a couple of joints to them.
Yeah.
These people were all not well. Most of them have mobility issues to begin with. Many people couldn't come to the lineup because they had such bad mobility issues, but others struggled through it. We were there in the rain, in the snow, in the heat, in the wind. We were there right through the pandemic. We were designated as an essential service by Coastal Health during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So this investigation of theirs is got to be one of the most ludicrous things I can imagine. That they would spend all of that money and all that time pretending they're a bunch of international spy cowboys, hiding in buildings, sending in, people to pretend that they're poor people, trying to trick us into doing something bad. And what did they get that we did that was bad? Yeah, we sold some cannabis.
Yeah.
And like I said, we started...
lower price in government stores.
Well, we take Trudeau's cut.
Yeah.
All we take is Trudeau's cut. We get $1 per gram.
You're even giving it for free. Edible and a joint if you can't buy it.
We give out lots and lots of joints for free every day.
And you're allowed to give up to 30 grams.
You would think we would be allowed to do what we're doing here.
Yeah, but no,
and I need to clarify that point that I was on. That to begin with, when the city council passed that motion, and then we met with them, and then we were going to find a storefront. Well, that involved a different type of a model. I was barely able to get enough donations week after week after week to keep the whole giveaway of the edibles going. For me to have gotten more donations to be able to pay for a storefront and the hydro and then you got to have staffing and all the other costs involved in doing that. Where was that money going to come from? Well, it had to come from an idea of collaborating between a for sale dispensary side and the CSP giveaway side. Yeah. And the dispensary would support the CSP. And so that's what we did. I created this model, a business model where we could get enough sales going on that we could continue to support the giveaway side to provide the CSP with a space to operate out of.
A limo and a chauffeur out there or a nice mansion.
I like my car.
I know, but
it's got a few dents in it. It's not too fancy, but I like my car.
You're here to help the people, not to make.
This is not about making money. That's what the cartel is worried about, but I don't think that's what the cartel is worried about. I don't think the cartel is worried about whether I'm here trying to get personally rich or not. Yeah. I think that what they're worried about is that they're not going to get rich. That they're not going to get as rich as they would like. Because if low barrier access becomes accepted in our society, which it has to, by the way, we can't stop until it is. We will not stop. You will not stop. We are legion, and we will not stop until we've got what legalization is supposed to be.
You're not even touching what the Blue Door would have made when that same cartel was here, so I can't really see them coming after you. You're making like way less than that.
But like I said, Glenn, it's not about me making money.
Yeah, true.
They must know that when we're giving away so much, when we're selling it at $1 a gram, that we're not making tons of money here. So it's not about that. This is about what Health Canada said. Yeah. If we allow you to do this, other people are going to want to do it. Yeah. And that's what they're worried about, is that in your community, wherever you are, there might be a store there where you can go in and buy cannabis actually at reasonable prices, produced by farmers who don't need to spend all the money on all the fancy equipment and grow it indoors under lights. That can find ways to bring it to market where it's extremely good cannabis still, because Mother Nature does a great job of growing cannabis under her light, right? Yeah. And so that farmers bring things to market and people buy those things, and nobody pays more than $10 a pound at the retail side of it for what they get. That would be ludicrous. And it's way easier to produce cannabis than it is to produce strawberries or raspberries or blueberries. Easier to harvest. Sure, there's more cost in now drying it and trimming it and all the rest of it, but you wouldn't have to do that either. You could have cannabis brought to the marketplace fresh, not dried, not trimmed, just on the branches.
On the branches.
There's buds on the branches. The branches, you put a bunch of them together. It's like a thing of carrots.
Take some for a salad.
And there it is. And then you can take it home with you. You can put it out and dry it. You know, like
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing how easily we could do these things.
Yeah,
if we had a government that was supporting these choices, that was making it easier for us to be able to access this amazing plant for all that it can be done and used for, that they should be subsidizing it if it was so expensive for people. But they don't need to do that. All they need to do is allow the marketplace to do what they do without these restrictions and regulations that are costing all this money. And all the ludicrous tax money.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to tax cannabis, right? Really? Where is there any cost to our government, to us, from people using cannabis?
Yeah.
There is none.
Well, maybe they tax it so there won't be taxes in other places or something, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, because weed consumers are just good people, and we don't mind paying a little extra
yeah.
just to cover the cost of those people that can't pay for their own mess. You know?
I don't know.
I mean, they tax alcohol because there's a lot of costs to our society involved with alcohol. A lot of policing costs. In fact, a cop the other day said to a friend of mine, if it wasn't for alcohol, if they wouldn't have a job.
Yeah.
If there was no alcohol in our society, the cops wouldn't have much of a job at all. Most of the stuff that costs, policing costs, is about alcohol.
Yeah.
And drug prohibition. You know, these things here. So if you're going to tax something, it really needs to be justified in that we need to collect this money from you people that are doing this because you're creating a little bit of a problem and we need to solve the problem. That's what taxes are supposed to be for. Cannabis solves the problems. Cannabis offsets the use of alcohol, which we just explained why that should be taxed. Yeah. Commercial tobacco kills 4.5 million humans every 12 months on this planet.
Wow.
It is the #1 reason why we have hospitalizations in Canada is people smoking commercial tobacco. Available easily. Oh yeah, I have to be the right age, but you can get it in gas stations and corner stores all over the place, right near schools, clustered together. None of that matters for apparently that particular product, which actually does cause people a whole lot of problems. And if the government really could get people to stop consuming commercial tobacco, that would save lives. That would save us a whole bunch of money. They should probably work on trying to do that in a nice way, not prohibition. That never works. But, you know, if there's that product, I love, in a world where I'm fighting to get marijuana legalized, I love that there's alcohol and tobacco. You know, they had no leg to stand on whatsoever when those things are available easy.
Yeah.
Well, you got a 1 ounce or 30 gram limit of how much cannabis you can buy at the cannabis store?
Yep. Per day, right?
How much of a limit is there on how much tequila you can buy, or vodka, or whiskey? Wow. I see at this time of year shopping carts full of that stuff being loaded into trunks in liquor stores all over the place.
You're limited.
It's like more than 30 grams to me.
You pass out and fall down.
Yeah, that's right. You know? That stuff kills people.
Oh, it does.
They don't talk about that. There's a few hundred people every year that die from alcohol poisoning just in this one province.
Yeah.
A few hundred of them. You don't get Bonnie Henry up there going, hey, you know, Jack Smith died this morning because he drank too much.
We
really got to do something about this.
They just released that the province of British Columbia's murder rate went up 24% over the last year.
Wow.
Yeah, they're saying mostly because of the gangs, the gang shootings that we've been having and stuff like that. But
well, I'll bet you domestic violence is up too. That's incredible.
That's way up
terrible.
There in 1 year.
And every single one of those gangland shootings costs $1 million minimum to investigate.
Wow, because of the gang squads and all the squads and the police officers.
You know, they come up with paperwork similar to this about every one of those shootings. You know,
I don't
know how much is in that, but could be a lot of money over the last year that they've spent. You know, trying to do what? You know, what is it that this federal crown thinks that they're going to accomplish on behalf of Canadians by bringing us into court? What is punishing us going to do? They want 6 months incarceration for me, 3 for George and 3 for Andrew. I can see getting those guys off the street.
Yeah.
But I mean, how is that going to help society when they pay for my food and housing for 6 months? What does that do for anybody?
It's stupid. And you're going to fight it anyways.
Oh man! Yeah. And that wouldn't stop me.
The Supreme Court judge just said that it's unconstitutional that people don't have access, and you're providing access. So somehow you should be in what she has said because you were charged before she.
These great court cases that you're talking about.
She ruled that after you had been charged. So yes.
The Howell case, the the Warneke Martin Siemens case.
Yeah.
The judgments on those are all exactly supporting what we're doing here.
Yeah, exactly.
Canadians have a constitutional right to be able to access cannabis through a storefront and to have no limits placed on the potency of the products that they can access.
Yeah. Edibles or oils.
The government has no chance of winning against us in court. And this is what I'm saying. If they're going to continue and we're going to end up there, this could be the case that finally sets it right.
Yeah.
And legalization happens and the end of prohibition finally happens. I don't know. But right now we are still suffering all of the ills and consequences of prohibition in a world where they say cannabis is legal.
Yeah. And if you don't follow the government rule, you're breaking the law.
And if you're breaking the cannabis law, you're in for a serious penalty.
Yeah.
Ted Smith with the Cannabis Buyers Club on the island there, $6.5 million fine for helping medical patients, all of them with a doctor on board, verifying their diagnosis, providing them with cannabis in a world where the government had failed to do that, doing it for 26 years, and they think that they can fine that person and that society $6.5 million for doing what? For hurting who? What type of what do they need all that money for? What damages are they going to pay for with all that money that Ted caused? Because he didn't cause any damage. There's nobody coming forward and saying, I took some of the edibles that I got from the Cannabis Buyers Club and I haven't been able to sleep ever since. Or now my kidney's fucked. Or anything, because there is nothing. There's nothing. There's nobody that ever comes forward and says anything like that. They all go, really, really happy that he was here to help me get those high-dose edibles because then I could sleep at night. And that really cured my ailing kidney. And that really, all these other benefits. So he's provided benefits to Canadians who were being denied that by failed government policy that was deemed to be so in the courts. And for that, he's going to get a $6.5 million fine? Or is it just because he didn't quit? Because they came and told him to quit, right?
Yeah.
So let's explore that for a moment.
You too.
Well, me too. And I can tell you exactly what that's like. And Jerry Martin can tell you exactly what that's like. And Pat Warneke can tell you exactly what that's like. You're helping hundreds of people on a regular basis in a profound way, and now you're going to have to tell them that you're not going to be there for them to help them anymore because their government thinks that they shouldn't get the help that they're getting. You can't do that. The government can't do that. That's cruel and unusual punishment to the citizens of Canada. And they're doing it invisible. They're behind the scenes. You don't get to see the face of government telling you, I'm sorry, but you can't have that which is going to help you today. You can't get that which is going to save your life today. There's no face to it. The face of it is the dispensary owner. He is the one who's going to look those people in the eye and say, I'm so sorry, but I can't help you.
Yeah.
What? You can't do that. You wouldn't. Nobody would do that.
And when it works out, there's not the people that they're turning away are enough to cast enough votes to change the power, right?
Right.
So there were a small group, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So they don't give a shit.
Oh, if it was the majority of people and they were going to vote them out, they'd have that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But we're just the cannabis community, right? So,
and they never took us seriously. They never thought that we could generate much in the way of votes.
Exactly.
And then we could. Yeah. All of a sudden we could. We were showing them that at 420 we can bring tens of thousands of people out.
And we put him in power because he said he was going to make it legalized.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
Going to legalize.
Yeah.
And won. A majority government going from non-fucking status to begin with. They've been decimated. And now here they go all the way to majority government running on a platform of legalizing cannabis because that's what Canadians wanted and they knew it.
Yeah.
But they didn't give Canadians what they wanted. They didn't give us legalization.
No.
They gave us a hostile takeover by a very dangerous cartel that is going to maintain artificially high prices on cannabis, be extremely suspect in their growing practices, and eliminate the poor and the sick. Like, wow, really? That's what the Liberals thought we voted for when we voted for them?
That's what we wanted?
This isn't what we wanted.
No, not at all.
All they would have to do is come to one of our 420 events in Vancouver, and they could see what it is that we wanted.
He was probably watching.
They were watching in horror, going, how can we stop this?
Yeah.
And they went, well, if you want to beat them, you have to join them.
Yeah.
So they decided they'd give us what we wanted, except not really.
No, not really, yeah.
You know, that Trudeau with his fancy, pretty little mouth there could flap out the words that we're going to legalize in a way that will eliminate the black market, he said. He flapped those pretty little lips of his and said, the medical users won't have to worry at all during legalization. Their needs will be met.
Yeah, right.
He didn't even mention the poor addicted people that are suffering and struggling so badly and dying during this epidemic of overdose deaths that aren't going to be able to access cannabis through his cartel. Didn't even mention them. No, he's a bloody criminal. He's one of the worst, and I can't believe it, but that's what happened. So anyway.
Oh, wow.
So here we are.
Here we are.
And we'll see where we go from here. But, you know, court coming up on the 13th, and, you know, we'll continue.
At 2 o'clock, right?
I think they said 2 o'clock.
So we'll just do a show after that's done. Because I think that's a Tuesday also.
The 13th of December is a Tuesday? They're not having me in on a Wednesday?
Yeah.
They're going to let me do my show from court?
They moved it to Tuesdays.
We'll set up out front of the courthouse there and do our show?
The 20th is a Tuesday, which is 7 days.
Well, it'll all be over by 4 o'clock anyway.
Yeah.
It'll all be,
well, which is less
4:30 at the very latest. The judge never sits longer than that.
Yeah.
So, you know.
It might only be an hour.
Well, no, it's going to be involved. The
Okay.
pre-trial conference, it should be more than an hour.
Okay.
Because we've got a lot to say.
Well, we'll let people know the week before that you might be a little bit late, but there'll be an update show right live. Then maybe you can walk here and walk in here.
You could maybe step out at 4 o'clock or 4:05 or something like that and give a little update. We're still in court. It looks like it'll go for another 20 minutes or so, and then you can tell them your stories of what's happened up till then. And there's something else. We'll figure all that.
We got a couple of weeks still.
Yeah.
We got 3 weeks.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We're going to prepare quite the story to tell the judge, because we have quite the story to tell the judge.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be able to tell that story.
Well, that's the idea.
Is it?
That's the idea. Okay. They get to tell their side of why they think I should be punished and why they think it's in the public's interest to bring us to court. And then we're going to explain why this is not in the public's interest at all to waste all of that and this money.
It's not a trial. I don't think.
And the biggest point for me is that this is going to bring the entire justice system of Canada into disrepute if they continue to bring us into the courts here. Because we are going to expose how corrupt our federal government is in their whole scheme to do a hostile takeover of the cannabis industry and do what they've done here. We're going to expose all that. And that is going to bring the system of justice of Canada into disrepute. And so, you know, go for it if that's what you're interested in. I guess I'm interested in doing that because we need to give the justice system of Canada the reputation that it deserves. And that is very corrupt, not in the public's interest, only serving the interests of big money. It's the financial parasites that are being protected by our police services in Canada, without a question. And we're going to expose all that if they bring us into court, because what else are we supposed to do? We're going to tell the truth.
You're going to go to jail for saving lives.
Wouldn't that be something, eh?
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
What would that do to Canada's reputation around the world if they decide to actually put George and Andrew and I into jail for our efforts here? I would be so disgusted in my country at that point.
You did everything right. You put in the applications, everything.
Every step.
Dragged their ass. And so how are you supposed to do what? Wait 2 years? How many people would have died if you would have waited the long time? They still haven't given you a fucking.
Well, and like I say, there was no licenses to apply for when we started this.
Exactly.
I had the knowledge from my previous experience that cannabis high dose edibles could get people through withdrawal, and that was so important with what was happening in this neighborhood. So because of that, we did what we had to do. I did it in conjunction with Van Du. I was not myself from day one, because day one, I walked into the boardroom of Van Du, I explained my idea to them, and they gave me unanimous approval on the spot. So from day one, I was representing Van Du, and I was a part of that group, which I've been for many years before this in any case. They are not bringing just me into court. They are bringing Van Du. They are bringing all of our organization here, the Serious Hope Society. They're going to be bringing a lot of things into court that I don't think they want there, but I'm more than happy to bring there. But there was no licenses to apply for. We did what was the right thing in responding to a public health emergency. At every step of the way, when there was something that we needed to do to continue, we did it, and we did it right. So what is their case against us? Where have we
wronged the public or endangered the public.
Yeah, where have we endangered the public? That's the big number one question.
Yeah.
That's the number one question.
Yeah.
Where have we tried to hide anything?
Yeah.
I've been completely upfront and above board every step of the way here with all levels of government, and I've got a paper trail that's as thick as their dossier there of emails that I have sent out to all of these people in all of these ministries during all these last 6 years. Trust me, I've got a pile that big of the letters that I've sent out to all, and I always close caption or whatever you CC, I CC it to about 30 other people, including media, including police, including government officials. Every letter that I send to anybody that I think is relevant to what we're doing here, all of those people have always gotten a copy of it. Mm-hmm. So bring it on. You want me in court? I think I'm ready. I think that's how I structured this right from the start. And we'll see how this goes.
Endangered is the profits of the government's weed stores.
I've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
Legalizing cannabis would be very dangerous to the bottom line profits of those corporations and groups that are making money off it. Mm-hmm. But to the average person, the illegalization or the attempt to prohibit cannabis has been extremely harmful and devastating to many, but costly to all Canadians, whether it's touched you personally as a family or whatever. If you had none of that, your taxes are still representative of the billions of dollars that this country has wasted on trying to enforce those laws. Mm-hmm. So everyone in Canada has been impacted by this, some a lot more than others. Yeah. I'll bring all that into court. I'm looking forward to it. The more I talk about it, the more I'm looking forward to it. You know, I mean, I'm disgusted that I have to do it. I'm disgusted by what they're doing on their side.
I wouldn't be, but you get to show them how wrong. So you know, yeah.
I wish I didn't have to do that.
You're gonna be
I wish we lived in a reasonable country.
Yeah.
You know, that first day, our very first appearance after
reasonable country? Where is there a reasonable country?
I want a reasonable country.
Okay?
I want one.
Do you know any reasonable country?
I want one, Glenn.
Well, what we want and what we get are two different things, right?
I know.
I would like a reasonable country, maybe, you know?
Yeah, nobody ever said things were going to be fair here. But I want it to be fair.
I want a nice car, a nice home. Do I get a nice car and home? No.
I want what is supposed to be my public servant to be able to listen to my concerns and deem them to be rational or not and act upon them accordingly. That's what I want. I don't want them to be hiding and the rest of it. Mm-hmm. Let's see what that's all about.
I don't know. Across the street. Maybe.
I don't know. Sirens and flashing lights in the neighborhood.
All good?
All good? We got the all good.
Live.
We never know. It was a Tuesday when the CSU were here that day.
Yeah.
I wonder what the CSU thinks now when they drive by and see the RVs gone, or do they know that it went up in flames? Did they do it perhaps?
No,
I don't believe it.
I don't think.
I got some people around me saying, this is a big corporation tactics, or this is the federal government's tactics, this is what police do when they can't find another way, or I don't really believe any of that. But there's good reason to suspect all of that, because all of those organizations have done really despicable things, in those operations where they've wanted to discredit groups. What really got to me the other day was listening to the hearings going on with respect to the truckers' protests, and how seemingly reasonable, smart people are saying, yes, we really need to have our law enforcement people do more to infiltrate all of these potentially threatening groups. That and then somebody else told me that during the heyday of the Black Panthers, they had 2,800 members.
Oh wow!
Half of them were FBI and CIA and all these other things. So,
thank you.
Is that the world we want to live in? Is where we got our law enforcement to pretending to be, good people in good groups to see if is that how we want to live? I mean, maybe we should just have like a little robot, a little drone following all of us around, videotaping and listening in on everything that's going on with us. And we'll just let the government decide whether they like what we're doing or not.
One of your staff is from CSIS.
Probably. You never know. Maybe I'm a deep plant.
Maybe.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. The whole thing is disgusting. Like, Oh my God! Because you know what the truth of it is that these groups that get infiltrated by these other people, they're not just infiltrated. Those are not just people that sit in the sidelines and watch and listen. They're instigators. So that a group that in the first place wasn't thinking about doing any violence, you know, really upset about how they're being treated as a group. They've got serious concerns. They want those addressed. They're going to try to figure out how to get attention, how to get, you know, something changed. They're not thinking about violence. No. And then they get infiltrated by government, you know, activists or whatever, or what they call those people. Yeah. And yeah, like, you know, the couple that was here, you know, on Canada Day, that put some bombs at the provincial legislature here. It wasn't their idea. No. They didn't have the wherewithal to do all of that or even conceive all of that. They were guided step by step by our law enforcement people that had infiltrated them and were posing as some sort of, you know, militants from the Middle East. Yeah. And they talked them into doing all of that so that they could arrest them and charge them. Yeah. I mean, is this the kind of world you really want to live in, where we trust the government to do that kind of thing to us? Or do we want a world where we have some privacy, some ability to talk? Because every once in a while, we really need to get together and discuss what it is that government is doing, you know? Because government doesn't get enough scrutiny, and they're typically a little bit out of control. And we really do need to be able to sit down and talk amongst ourselves about how we're being treated by government, whether we think this is fair or not. We need to be able to air our grievances against the state without worrying that the state is going to be listening in on our conversations, is going to be now making us disappear, or whatever else they can do when they don't like what you're saying about them. But you know, a bunch of people just tried to do that in Ottawa, and they got the Emergency Powers Act invoked. Where we tried to step up and do something, right? Right, and those were people that really had some valid concerns. Yeah. That had tried to get those concerns addressed and were having no luck in doing that. They came up with a non-violent way to do that. I don't agree with everything that was done there with respect to maybe disrupting people with horns. Yeah. But I understand the genesis of that, about how you would decide, well, look, now we're here in our trucks and they're still not listening to us. We can't go to work. You know, this is serious to all those people. These are good, smart Canadians in most cases. You have to give them the benefit of the doubt on all of that. And they had some concerns that they wanted to be heard. They went to Ottawa because they couldn't get them heard from the areas that they were in. They went there en masse because there was a lot of them. They went there peacefully, but upon getting there, they still weren't being heard. Yeah. All they were doing was they were being treated like as if they were terrorists or something, and that wasn't what they were. That's not what they were trying to do. So they started honking their horns. Like I say, I understand the genesis of that. I'm not sure I would have been in favor of doing that. But, you know, they just wanted to be heard. They needed to have our Prime Minister or somebody of significance step out and talk to them. Yeah. And say, okay, what are your concerns? And collectively, they would have come up with a list of things that they weren't happy about. That would look bad because of the COVID laws. Well, the government did. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Trudeau, he just went and hid. Yeah. You know, he went and hid and waited because that's what they do. They wait until these things escalate. And once they escalate, they can go, aha, look at that. Their intentions, they're escalating. Yeah. You know, there was the one truck that had the Nazi flag on there, that made the news. Yeah. Oh, look at this. They're in favor of Nazis, these people. Oh, jeez. No, that truck had a Nazi flag beside a picture of Trudeau on his truck. Yeah. But that's not the way they report it. I had something really disturbing happen here, too. I won't say which mainstream media, but I've had a few of them in the last week come and talk to me. Mm-hmm. One of them was here. Mm-hmm. Just a camera operator, here to take pictures for the story. A long-time journalist, a long-time photojournalist, this particular fellow was. He was very unhappy with the state of affairs here. He expressed to me about how the federal government has manipulated the mainstream media. They've given them hundreds of millions of dollars for one thing, and they control the narrative. Yeah. And he is not allowed to go and tell the stories that he would otherwise be telling at this point.
Oh, wow.
And so when we sit here and wonder why we have this huge story going on, and as much as I include the media in all of my letters, I get very little interest until somebody firebombs it or until the police raid it.
Yeah.
And then they do a couple of stories, but that's it.
Yeah.
And, you know, wondering why was this the case? This is a huge story. We've rescued hundreds of people that will stand up and testify that they've been saved from the toxic drug supply. Mm-hmm. We've got the best harm reduction option going in a world where the government's constantly at podiums flapping their gums about what they're doing for the opioid crisis, how many millions of dollars they're putting into it, and they don't say word one about us. Mm-hmm. And the media doesn't want to cover what we're doing. Why is that? Well, I found out the other day when this photojournalist from a mainstream news outlet told me that they are no longer allowed to be journalists like we used to think journalists were. You know, going out there and getting the big story. They're told what they can do and what they can't do, and they know where the lines are, that they don't dare even submit a story that would cross those lines for fear of not getting the ability to do future stories. That they're all kind of living in fear here. So you know, that's the world we're living in. You know?
I'd like to team up with that guy and do a show, even if it's online, about news stories you won't see on TV. You know?
Yeah.
Right?
We're going to pursue this for sure.
Yeah, make a new news source. News stories you won't see on TV.
Exactly. Well, Glenn, thank you very much again, sir.
Yes,
and
sir.
For all you're doing. Glenn's also producing the show now.
Yeah.
And Neil is still learning to meditate somewhere in India, apparently.
Yep, that's good.
I'm waiting for him to contact me telepathically, and then I'll know that he's finally got it. And we'll see how he's doing.
He'll send you something in the mail. He said, "Yeah, I knew you were thinking of me or something."
I'll hold the envelope up by my head and tell you what's in it. Do you remember that?
Yes.
You got to be a little bit older out there in the audience to know what that is. Johnny Carson. Yeah, he'd take the letter and he'd put it there, and he'd say something funny.
He'd have his
have the big hat on there.
The big hat or something like that.
The genie hat or whatever. Funny stuff.
All right,
Glenn. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Well, that brings us to the next segment of the program, where we're going to have a little chat with a good friend of mine. She's been a force in the cannabis protest movement for a long, long time here. I love her energy, and I love her tenaciousness and her stick-to-itiveness. She's been doing a lot of different things for our community. She's involved in spiritual healing and many other things. She's a fine young woman that does many different things, and I'm going to get her to tell you a whole bunch of that. Ms. Medibles, is that how you want me to introduce you?
Yeah, Ms. Meds on Facebook. I'm in Facebook jail and all sorts of things, so they got me from Token Meds, still Token Meds. Thanks, Mark Zuckerberg.
So tell us a little bit about your history here. How did this all start for you and when?
So I have a special needs son, Jackson, and he was born with a very rare syndrome called Mowat-Wilson syndrome. And with that, we got a lot of neglect in the system. I got denied welfare just after he was out of the hospital. So I literally started from a $100 bag of bottoms.
Right.
It was just over 5 years ago. I think I'm going on my 6th year now too.
Right.
And I started making fucking bacon cookies to help with my son's CBD because it was really expensive. I couldn't afford. I was getting $400 a month. So support his CBD to help the elders with their cookies because they passed bill C-52 years ago with the edibles in the dispensaries,
right.
And to help keep a roof over my head. I was just barely surviving, and that's how Ms. Medibles started. And I was a baker and I didn't know it.
So you just started baking to look after the needs of your family and also to raise a bit of money, which is also looking after the needs of your family.
And as well as I'm a really high dose.
So where did you market these things?
I'm in person. I'm off online. I'm not about it anymore in the social media.
But you started coming to you were coming to 420.
I was doing
the
markets and stuff, and it started off at Thornton Park.
Right.
That's where it all started. That's our sacred park. And,
it is.
And you know, it's all about our beautiful healing plan and healing and enlightenment and you know, being truthful with us and others, and it's all about our energies. And
so you were like that 5 or 6 years ago as well, or have you kind of grown into this?
I've grown into my spiritual shoes within the last It's been a crazy awakening roller coaster.
Right.
It's been a couple years now, and I've really come in with my power by being one with myself, true with myself and others. Our 12 strands of DNA are connected to the 12 virtues. The more in line you are with the virtue, it's, yeah. Sorry guys, I don't want to get too involved into it. But the more in line you are with that, the more access you have to your abilities. Right. And you know that you're on your alignment when good things are happening, and more so when negative things are happening, you know you need to change something, like you're not on alignment. And so it's all about the energies that you project or the energies that you receive.
So when you started out, you were just at the marketplace, so you're just trying to sell some baked goods.
Just trying to help people. At the end of the day, it's all about
when did you start getting
people.
a little more upset about things? Because you're pretty vocal about these laws and about the enforcement of them and things like that. Just a natural progression, I would imagine.
The unjust and just the everything kind of building up, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired watching everyone being sick and tired.
Right, getting beat up
and joining together as a force, as a team, and I just got sick and tired of it, and I'm really finding my voice.
So how did that start to manifest itself? Was it through signage?
So I'm clairvoyant, so I get messages. It's through signs. I deal with numerology and numbers. So when you see a number, the biggest thing that people do, so they'll see a number. Say like 222 or 333. Most people see 1111, which is a manifestation portal.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's a very
once
powerful.
A day usually. I'm not sure why.
So you're recognizing the number, right? So now the next step is to look it up online.
I see.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, spiritual meaning. Right. So now the next step is to receive that message. So now you're looking and you're reading. And you're seeing what resonates with you while you're reading that message. So
I'll have to do that.
Yeah,
it's been going on for a long time.
It helps you on your path.
And sometimes it's 1, 2, 3. You know, but that's the progression. I don't usually see other things. I just figured it's my brain, playing games because it's bored. But there might be more to it than that, is what you're saying.
Ooh, there's a lot more to it. And I think I'm going to start, I might start my own podcast or my own something just to start getting information out. Because, there's a lot to it. We're all connected. We're all as one.
Nice.
And it's all about telepathy. And it gets, once you kind of go down the rabbit hole with it, you can't really go back. But it's all about being true with you and being one with you in order to receive those types of abilities and stuff like that. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a lot of work.
So another thing that progressed over time was your product line.
Yes.
Lots of different things. This is the force behind the Advent calendars.
Yeah, so this is my 4th year with these calendars.
That's what I was going to ask you next, is how long you've been doing that, because this isn't your first year.
Yeah, this will be the 4th year with the calendars. And I think this is the least amount of calendars. I have 5 different options this year, but I try to have something for everybody, a low dose and different price points and stuff too.
CannabisEdibles.com?
Yes, edibles.com with an S.
Edibles.com.
Yeah. And so there's free shipping, free gifts with it.
Ediblescalendar.com.
Ediblecalendars.com with an S. Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
All right. It's important, apparently.
So we have 5 different options this year. The 25 Straino Christmas and
that's this one here.
The party box. So this one has 2 grams of shatter, 1 gram of distillate, cartridge pen, hash, CBD isolate powder, keef. I think there's 10 grams of premium cannabis in it as well, and 6,000 grams of gummies. Wow. So it's and there's some Zoom mushrooms in there as well.
So you can buy those at ediblescalendars.com. Ediblecalendars.com. But you can also win these in our raffle to support the CSP in its effort to recuperate from the torching of our RV. And you can do that by entering our raffle. You can provide a $10 donation. I said minimum $10, but for everybody who sends me like in multiples of tens, they get tickets to match that.
Yeah.
So that's good. And you do that to freedomtour06@hotmail.com. You can send me an e-transfer there. It's an automatic deposit, and we'll enter you into our blocks of other entrants. Right now we've got, I think, about 20 people in there.
I'm going to put the link into your post.
The link is going to be in the post.
And they can go and do it right there, okay?
Are you interested in this stuff here? I mean, I'm smoking away by myself. I was going to offer you some, and I saw you had one.
I'll grab some, and then if I'm a little stoned, I kind of forgot to light it.
Yeah. And that's where you know you're where you want to be, is when you don't think you don't think of it.
Yeah, right.
That's what I tell people with edibles. With edibles, you can't eat too much, and that's the big issue. They're great, and they're good for many people in many different circumstances. But if you haven't done them before, you need to start low and go slow on that. 10 milligrams is probably where you start, and then don't do any more for 45 minutes to an hour. If 45 minutes later you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't feel nothing, that didn't do nothing for me, well then have another 10 milligrams and see how that goes. But what's going to happen is probably even in your first time, that 10 milligrams, an hour later, you won't think about it. You'll realize that 2.5 hours has gone by, that your back didn't hurt as much as it did before, and you managed to get some housework done that you've been putting off because your back hurt too much. And that's when it's working properly, is when you don't think about it. That's when you're at that right level. But when you're thinking about it, it's because your back hurts. It's because you can't get to that housework because your back hurts. And you're like, I want to be able to do that. And so you're going to try this. And then, you're, come on, is it going to work? Is it going to work? And if it does its job, you'll stop with the, is it going to work? You'll be like, oh wow, man, that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that was so cool there. I think I'm going to get right on that. And then you start doing shit, and then pretty soon time goes by, and then 2.5 hours later, you're like, wow, my back really didn't hurt.
And that's eating edibles for breakfast, and then forgetting about it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's why.
Or getting a really good night's sleep, and then realizing, oh yeah, I ate those cookies before I went to bed last night. So they are great for people. They're amazing for people. It's some of the very best medicine you can get for serious issues, for sure. But the biggest problem, like I say, that we have is people eat too much to begin with, especially where we're giving it away to people that don't have enough to eat to start with. They're hungry, and they get a little pack that's got all these beautiful little kickers. Our donators and our bakers do a really good job.
And we like to do our high doses.
Yeah, they look really nice,
And the thing is, I always like to tell people is vitamin C helps bring it down too. If you're ever feeling too high, I always say, have an orange or vitamin C pills or even orange juice. It just helps bring it down a little bit, especially dealing with my products, is because I deal with veterans. I specialize in high doses.
High doses.
High doses. And the reason I do that is because I'm a 2,000 milligram dose. And I can't eat a lot of sugar, and it was getting me physically sick. So that's why I started really doing those high doses and then masking them. And we need them, and especially with low income, and I work with families and parents, and you can't afford the dispensary prices, and and especially 10 milligrams, that's not going to cut it for us. If I were to eat that, I would get sick and I would have to go to the hospital because of what it's doing to my body now.
Yeah.
Like,
you've come to really rely on it for sure, and many people have. And that's why I was so happy to see that the decision come down in the Warnicki Seaman Martin case, that it's against our rights to be able to put caps on the potency of these things. That was just a ludicrous thing. The government cannot tell you. Nobody can tell you what the right dose is of edibles for you. You need to find that out yourself. Yeah. Every person is a unique individual.
Healing is our right. Like, you can't take that away.
And this is the biggest disgusting thing of all of this. The people that are harmed the most are the people that are most in need. That's what this whole drug war thing has done. That's what legalization with the cartel has done. And here we are again. The people that need those really high doses are the people that are really not well at all, right? Yes, without it, they're not well at all. They're having a miserable existence. And so those are the ones that get singled out when a government decides that they're going to cap the potency that you're allowed to have or you're allowed to purchase at something that's ridiculously low. So there again, there's no protection in there. I mean, that's what they say they're doing. Maybe that's what they believe they're doing. I'm not sure what they're doing. It's probably all money and profit based what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
But they're able to say, well, we're trying to protect those poor people who aren't used to edibles or can't eat very much, and if they get those high doses, then they're going to be hurt. Yeah, well, those people know better, and they should know better. And if you put the proper warnings on the high-dose labels and stuff, and make that information out there in the public, then they're not going to do that. Nobody wants to hurt themselves. Nobody's trying to go out there. Like, you don't start drinking by drinking a 40-ouncer of vodka. That's not where you start. Sure, you might want to get drunk that night, but you don't need a 40-ounce bottle of vodka to do that with. You wouldn't do that. Maybe after a couple of years of drinking and you've become hardcore and you've built up a resistance, maybe that's what you do on a Friday night is go get yourself a 40-pounder. But you don't start there. And you don't start there with edible cannabis either. You start at a much lower dosage that's going to be able, because when people eat too much, then they don't want to do it again. And then they're really missing out on something that really could help them. If you've got trouble sleeping, if you've got serious pain, if you've got stuff like that going on, cannabis edibles can probably help you. There's little chance that they can't. But if you have a bad experience and decide that it's not good for you, then you don't try it again, then you miss out. And really all it was is you ate too much to start with. So you should maybe reconsider that. If you've got those types of health issues and you're looking for solutions and you've tried edibles but you didn't like the experience, there's probably a level where you will like the experience, where it won't be whatever it is that wasn't right about that uncomfortable experience. It's really worth revisiting for sure.
And that's where I really like to, get to know my clients, and I really ask them questions on what they're using it for, and I try to get to know their dose and get to know them as a person and medicine. And I always let them know I'm not a doctor. I can't, but
you can recognize the answers to questions.
But you always have to, do your due diligence, right? And, and really get to know them. And if I need to make something special to them, if I need to add CBD to it, if they're, I really, for what they need it for, and...
You're such a criminal.
Right? Just trying to survive, and trying to help people. That's my first and foremost, is helping as many people as we can,
A couple of things. We were mentioning the amount of money, Glenn and I, that it's wasted to get what results. What is all the money that they're spending here? What results are they going to get for the public? I mean, they justify to the public spending that. Adela Wisdom, down in Missouri, a woman that I've been following for quite a while there, an outspoken cannabis person, for sure, but she was found to have on her property, but it's even not clear that that's her property, but she was deemed to be the one possessing it, is a bunch of wild ditch cannabis hemp plants. It's like...
Oh my goodness!
It wouldn't fill this box. And they've got that much on her. They've been after her for years. It's now going through the courts. They've spent well over $1 million of Americans' tax dollars to eventually get what out of her? What is it they're going to get out of her that's going to be of value to the American citizenry? I don't understand why they think they can do this. And same with us.
That's criminal.
That's criminal.
The criminal right
stuff.
There, and what they're doing to us. That's the real criminals. The government, the power, the dollar, I'm going to stop it there.
Everything like that. There's indigenous issues. There's indigenous issues. There's a bunch of them. Where our federal government thinks it's better to spend 100 times more than it would cost them to actually fix the issue that's being, brought forward. They don't want to provide the clean water, and to get away from doing that, they're taking them to court, and they're wasting millions of dollars on lawyers to try to fight different initiatives. There's veterans that are in need of claims for their disability caused by the war that they went to fight for all of us, that can't get their due, what they deserve, because the government is fighting them. And the cost of fighting them exceeds what it would cost to give them what they're asking for. This is just criminal activity.
All by trying to cover up their tracks, and just by not being truthful. The truth will set us free. End of day.
Yeah, just tell the truth. That's it. That's what I want out of my public servants. If you had a servant, what would be kind of your number one requirement? That he tells you the truth when you ask him a question, that he's supposed to do something for you. You don't want him not doing what you told them to do, and then lying to you about having done it, and all that web of fucking deceit that happens, that this is what's going on with our government. They're corrupt. They're not looking after our needs. They are sitting behind closed doors, having conversations with the financial parasites of this world, agreeing to schemes and plans that enslave all of us to produce and consume for these groups. And that's the world that we've got here. There's the illusion that they present, and a lot of people believe it, that we've got freedom here, that we've got public servants here, that your government's working for you. But I'm here to tell you that that's not the truth, and you should be very afraid of who it is that our governments are working for. Sure, your MLA, she might be a caring person, trying to bring your issues in your community forward to the higher ups in the government. But the higher ups in the government, they don't have your best interests in mind. They're not operating in a world where it's like, well, how do we help? They're operating in a world, well, how can we protect the interests of those people that we're really working for? And it is not Canadians. It is not us. That's very, very clear.
It's them and the dollar.
It's just the almighty dollar and whoever is wielding it the
elites, and I could get really, really into this. I was doing some crazy research last night, but yeah, it goes really, really deep, and I think I'm gonna start doing my own some sort of I'm a truth seeker. I need the truth out there.
Be very careful about seeking the truth too deeply.
I know. I found this chick last night I found this chick on TikTok last night, and she started getting really deep into stuff, and then I got a little bit worried for her. And then I was like, whoa, how deep do I want to get into it, right? But the signs and the messages are everywhere. We just need to open our eyes.
I mean, the bottom line is you just got to understand that there's an agenda being carried out here through all of our systems and public servants and governments by the financial elite, the parasites, as I prefer to call them. I don't think they're elite at all as far as human beings go. If they were real human beings, they would join with the rest of us in trying to deal with the people that are suffering and try to alleviate poverty and hunger and homelessness and all of those different things. But they care about their ability to control masses of people and massive amounts of money. That's the world we're living in. So I mean, you just understand that they have all the money in the world that they need to be able to make all of this happen, so they can buy all of the people that they need to buy. The cost of buying a judge in Canada is about $300,000. That's what they get paid, to do their job, to sit there and judge over situations where clearly any real judge, an ethical judge with the public's interest in mind, would not be penalizing 21-year-old Johnny or Mary because they were found with a little bag of some flowers in their car that they thought might help them feel good on a Friday night. And now they're before a judge. And any judge in his right mind would realize these laws are out of whack, but they don't, because they're paid $300,000 to sit there and go, well, the parliamentarians make the laws, and they are voted in by the majority of the voters, and therefore it is the will of the people that we punish you to life in prison for your third offense of having that little bag of flowers, Miss Net. You know what I mean? What kind of a fucking judge does that? This is such insane, and it's been going on for 100 years in Canada, where these pompous, overpaid, corrupt pieces of crap are sitting there making judgments on their fellow citizens on behalf of parliamentarians who were voted in by the majority of the voters, and I guess that they just think that it's the will of the people that we punish you severely for having, this little bit of plants on you that's never harmed anybody. And yeah, I know your lawyer showed me the science where there's been really no harms caused by this plant that you're in possession of. But the law is still the law, young lady, and I'm here to uphold the law because I'm paid $300,000 to do that. And what's the price of a cop these days? To go about their business, enforcing many of these immoral things on us that don't make sense, that aren't fair, but it's the law. And you're in the wrong place in the wrong time, and this cop's going to enforce the law on you, and he's paid how much money to do that? And the cop that doesn't want to enforce it on you, he's going to look the other way. But he's got his partner there, so he can't always look the other way. Not going to say anything. Can't say anything, because that's the culture of our police forces. And it's the culture of our government. Where in the Minister of Justice's office, I was told years ago by someone who worked there, they're not allowed to talk. about the reasonableness or the justification behind busting people
it's
for
anything
weed.
to help the people, or anyone that is trying to help the people. They see us as a threat.
Yeah.
Like
we are silenced.
Yeah.
We are marginalized.
Nothing
we are
that's censored.
canceled.
Yeah.
You know?
Completely. And enough is enough. We're not
try to do the right thing and
silent
get to a government official. You are canceled by that government official. They're all insulated. I went on the Freedom Tour 3 years in a row. I went across Canada and I tried to visit every mayor along the way and every office that I could of these people and have these conversations. And then I went back again 3 years later. I had a 3-year hiatus where I didn't go because the universe wanted me to stay with my dad during his last years and work a bunch of stuff out, and that's what happened. And then I went back again. And, you know, on my 4th trip across Canada doing that, so many, in any of the larger towns, in the big cities for sure, you cannot just drop in on the mayor anymore. Like I could back in the early parts of 2000.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't go visit the pilot in a cockpit anymore because of what happened in 2001. You don't get to go and talk to the mayor of Toronto or the mayor of Vancouver. You can go there. They discourage it. There's a few locked doors you might have to get through, and you can. Yeah. And you can get into the office where you will find the secretary, and she'll take your name, and then she'll say that maybe they'll call you, but if they don't want to, they don't. Yeah. They don't call me. You know, the last mayor was here and served his term. I asked for an appointment with him the week before he was mayor because I could see it coming. Yeah. The day after he was mayor, I went down there and said, "I'm putting my name in. I want to talk to this mayor." And 3 other times I asked for an appointment with the mayor.
Nothing yet.
Nothing. Sheila Malcolmson might be a fine person for all I know. She's the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions in British Columbia here. I have asked her for some of her time on several occasions. Sent her formal emails asking to have an appointment and a meeting with her. Nope, don't get to do it. She doesn't want to hear what I have to say because it's not going to be in line with what she's told she has to do.
Her agenda.
Yeah, their agenda is different than mine. They don't want to listen to what I have to say. They don't want to have to figure out a way. So they don't. They just don't talk to you. You don't exist as far as they're concerned. The VPD raid us. And I'm outraged, you know, because I know what we're doing here. I'm a reasonable human being. I've tried to be a good human all my life, and I'm surrounded by a bunch of really good humans that are trying to make the world a better place. We're not hurting anybody. We're not criminals. We are not that at all. We're quite the opposite.
We're healers, not dealers.
So I'm pissed right off when they come and raid us and they take my RV and they charge us with this. It's outrageous. I need to talk to somebody about this. Try to talk to any senior police officer. Try to find one. You know, if they are there, they won't talk to you. We had a little thing going on here where they were going to dismantle all the homeless people months ago. That was the big thing. It's coming down this week. We're going to get rid of all these tents on the sidewalk.
They did. Like, I walked down there, I think it was last week, and it was a lot different. They did get rid of a lot of big sections. And
there's been an evolution of it, but that big day that they had where they were going to do it in that day, and they started right there, and they had all those. It took them a little while. There was a staff sergeant there standing with 3 other officers. So I went up and tried to talk to him. He really didn't want to give me the time of day. Didn't want to hear what I had to say, even though, you know, I'm talking about important stuff. I know I am. And this is the thing. I couldn't. You can't go knock on the door at the police station and then have somebody come and talk to you. It doesn't work. Not at this one. Yeah. That one down there, there's a reception person. Okay. They'll take your name. Maybe they'll have you sit in a chair there. Then maybe somebody will talk to you on a phone who says they're an officer. They won't come and talk to you in person. And no senior officer will do that. They've got all these different ways that they've learned to be able to insulate themselves from anybody to get proper access to them. So
they're just proving that they're not there for the people. They're making that pretty clear if we can't even get a hold of them. And
this is the experience of individuals. Lots of individuals, but not that many individuals. Most people, the majority of people, never get to face any of that. They live their lives, they pay their taxes, they basically obey. They get the odd thing here and there, but it's nothing. But so that the amount of people that actually get to understand how corrupt the bureaucracy is, how ineffective it is, and how insulated it is from people being able to really access the people that will make a good decision is very few. And Glenn pointed it out earlier on in the show here, is that there's not enough people for them to worry about when it comes to whether or not they're going to get voted back in again or not. They've got the majority of people that don't get those experiences. But for the fringe people, in Canada, this is not a good country. you know?
Well, and we don't even if, like, on the voting down here, it doesn't make enough to do anything. Trying to get Trudeau out, it didn't even do anything down here because they wanted
It's all
him.
done back east before.
Exactly. It's just, it made no sense. And then, yeah, so we're all pissed down
They're
here.
so disconnected, you know?
Yeah.
It's not just the Rockies, it's the time zones.
Things have to change. Like, it is just enough is enough. Like,
exactly.
You know, people, like,
so
especially.
You're not ever going to quit doing that, and you've been doing you're not just vending at a market. You're protesting, sometimes all by yourself, but you're there if nobody else is, and you're usually there with a few other people. And these are bona fide protests that you got going on there. You know, we've got a lot to be upset about. We need to stand up, but it's also harm reduction.
Reasonable access, and you know, and with the high doses and stuff. And I always go down there and I clean up the tin foil.
Right.
Because down
you're
at
talking Thornton Park.
Thornton Park, I go down there on Saturdays, and I always clean up and stuff. And I clean up, honestly, a lot of tinfoil, and a lot of people come to me for joints and weed, and absolutely, you know, I do what I can. Like, if you need something, I'll always get it.
So what happened last Saturday there with the cops?
So last Saturday, there was 4 tents there. 3 of us are regulars, and there was another tent there, and I don't really know who he was. I think I have seen I've seen him there once before, but he had his walls on his tent, and that's a no-no. Like, they can't see what you're doing. Right. And so they queued up. They were there for about 2 hours. They arrested somebody as well.
From that tent?
No, this was prior, because we were at Main and Terminal. There's lots of junkies and stuff there, right? So
some unrelated arrest happened.
So they were dealing with that. So then we were keeping watch, and then eventually they started creeping, and they drove right up behind us, and I'm like, okay, like, that's enough. So I started, you know, packing up, and then they just
Did they seize some of your stuff?
Not me. They didn't bother. They didn't even talk to me. They didn't bother me. They didn't bother any of the regulars that were there. They just went straight to that guy in that tent.
I see.
And, you know, they went saying that his stuff was being seized. As far as I know, there wasn't any arrests. And as I was packing down, because I was by myself, so I was packing down my tent, and one of the park rangers, there's, you know, that one guy, the short guy with the glasses and the beard?
Yep.
He just loves us.
Yeah.
So yeah, especially at Thornton. So he was there, and he was bugging out on me for a bit, but then the other one came and helped me. And my before self, you know, maybe wouldn't have been so nice, but I've changed my ways and my spiritualness and stuff, and so I thanked him. And, you know, like, I thank you for your time, and, you know, for helping me, not necessarily.
Yes, have a worse outcome.
It's the energy that you project. So I didn't want to have any negative or any, you know, so I thanked him for, you know, for helping me. He didn't need to do that, you know, and but before self, you know, probably would have given him a snarky, you know, fuck you, I don't need help, or something like that. But no, that's not, you know, thank you for his time. And,
yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned it off the top here, but in that document there, they've got what they think about me.
That's a joke.
Well, I don't find it funny at all.
Sorry, I don't
and I did mention this. They've labeled me as anti-police. That I'm pro-marijuana and anti-police. I think that's a horrible way to profile me.
That is not.
I've never done anything
whatsoever
to justify that at all. I've never done anything to harm any police officer in any way, shape, or form. In fact, what I do is trying to help the police have a better job where they're not disrespected in the community so much because they have to enforce laws that people don't think are justified.
Just being pro-marijuana is anti-police.
I guess that's what they think.
Right.
But I'm not happy that.
Right.
And I'm sure that's got something to do with it. That because you're in favor of a law being struck, that maybe you're against the police. But I'm not happy about it because you know, when I'm being pulled over or they're dealing with me, they pull up my name, and that's what comes up is that I'm anti-police. Now all of a sudden they're
make them some goodies and show them a good gesture or something.
Now they're unhooking their gun, you know, and
some donuts.
So no, I'm not happy about the profiling at all. About that, just the same way as I didn't think it was very fair to call the truck drivers terrorists, you know, and say what they were doing was anti-Canadian.
It's all out of line.
All of it's so out of line.
It's so whack. It's so corrupt. it's disgusting of how it all is unfolding with the government, and they just keep showing us that they're not for us. You know, every day it's
so there's going to be more protests. We're not going to be finished.
We're not going away.
Soon.
We are not going away.
You're doing the protests every Saturday at Thornton Park. There's going to be a Valentine weed event coming up that we'll talk more about as we get closer to that. That's a little ways away. I'm going to announce here and now today that there's going to be a 420 at Thornton Park. And we're going to try and have ourselves a nice little grassroots OG 420 at Thornton Park. I'm pretty happy to be able to do that. So what else is coming up on your schedule? Is there anything you want to talk about or promote?
So any event that you're at, I'll be at.
I'm just here most of the time.
If I need to be in 2 places at once, I'll do that too. So that's pretty much where I'll be for 420. Now
there's going to be a few different options in 420 for sure.
There's a few things going on, but I'll have a booth at Thornton Park as well. As far as for me, I just do pop-ups, and as far as social media, I'm banned and blocked and everything, and I'm just kind of over it. And I'm old school. I like in person. You know, you see me. You know, if you need something, let me know. If you need to get a hold of me, send me a message. I do have my email or my calendar, ediblecalendars.com, and you can send me any questions, any emails, anything. I'm kind of just, you know, if you really need me, ask me. Like, I'm kind of just word of mouth. Like, I don't know, I like to be behind the scenes and just kind of floating. And
Instagram.
All my Instagrams got shut down. My page got shut down. My main Facebook got shut down. I lost 5,000 clients 3 months ago.
Ediblecalendars.com.
So
is there contact there?
So you can send an email. So about 3 months ago, I kind of just, I'm still me. I'm still here. It's just they made it so hard to contact me or for me to.
Thornton Park Saturdays.
Yeah.
Rain or shine. Snow.
Yeah, I am there. For the last 6 years, I've been going there. Rain, shine, and snow. It's been great.
So you want some reasonable access? You don't want to walk all the way from the SkyTrain to where we are here? You can get some right there.
We do $50 ounces, and our edibles and stuff like that. And it's sometimes it's just me. Sometimes there's more. There's a couple of diehards that will be out there with their heaters and you know.
Well, I don't blame them at all.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Those are not diehards. Those are die-easies. My poor staff, we're going to go out there and have a look in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And we'll see them.
It's very windy out there, and then they have to chain themselves to the poles to keep the tent from going.
Wow, it's cold and wet and now windy.
They've almost lost it.
Not ideal at all. We're hoping it's only just a few more days before we're into a vehicle. I'll do what we can do here. But in any case, we're going to go do that. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us.
Thank you for having me on here.
Thanks for all that you do for us, for donating these wonderful things here that you can get in on if you want to send me $10 or come down and see me. Oh, I keep breaking these compartments open. I'm not taking anything, but I got really big, nasty fingers that are poking holes in this thing. Not as bad as Glenn. They don't call him 8 out of 10 Glenn for no reason.
Yeah, I've these nails.
But I'm keeping him away from these calendars, by the way. He doesn't get to carry them at all. We'll try to keep them pristine. Certainly we're not going to open them up at all. It's whoever's going to get the thing there. freedomtour06@hotmail.com. You can send me $10 per ticket, and we'll enter you into the draw. I'm sure there's not going to be too many people in the draw. If there's 100 people, I'll be very surprised. But if there's 100 people, that means that we've raised $1,000.
Yeah.
And that would be really awesome.
The value on them, so the party box is $350. That's what it's going for, but it's $450, but it's on sale for $350 because, you know, I'm trying to give reasonable access. And the 12 strains of Christmas is $240.
There you go.
So those are the values of what you're winning, and there's some juicy prizes in there. 25 different strains. You get to wake up, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's just the adult version of the kid's Christmas, you know.
Like
what's behind the door today? Oh,
well, as an adult, you get weed now.
That's right, you know, exactly. Well, you don't want candy. Like, so over candy now.
Unless it's infused, of course.
It took me 65 years to get over candy. I still would have wanted one of those that was full of candy a year ago. Not now. Not now. Time to grow up.
Never.
Well, I did this year. I got a credit card. I stopped eating chocolate and candy all the time.
Okay.
I think there was other things I did too. But anyway, I'm growing up, but not very fast.
Yeah, no.
Took me this long to get past 18. You know, we'll see where I
had
go
to
from here.
grow up, and I never got my child. So now this is where now I get to, you know, today I wear my gumboots so I can jump in puddles, and that's literally what I've been doing all day is jumping in puddles.
Well, if you got to go out in the rain, you may as well embrace it and enjoy it.
Exactly.
Like, holy shit, it's cool, man.
The happy moment of it and embracing it, the positivity.
Get a car; it's more fun.
Car is also fun.
Yes, Glenn.
Can you get to splash people?
There's many ways to the top of the mountain. And you can get there on foot with an umbrella, on foot without an umbrella, in a car, on a horse.
It's about karma too.
Ways.
You don't want to.
And whichever one of those ways you find yourself involved with, because that's just the flow of your life, enjoy it. That's it. Whatever it is, it could be worse, I'm sure. And there's always something there to get out of it that's positive, even if it's terrible. Because, like I say, it could be worse even if it's terrible.
It was that bad. Smoke a joint. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
When in doubt, smoke a joint.
And if you don't have a joint, you know, there's all these terrible things. You can always imagine one more level of it could be worse until you get to down there where you go, no. That's just terrible. And know that people are having those kind of days. You know, we don't want to mention anything in specific, but there's horrible days being had by some human beings every moment of every day. We are very fortunate if that's not us in any way that is. And we are so fortunate here to have warm water. I love Glenn's thankful post today that you know, you can have a shower, have a nice warm shower. You can have a shower here too on the downtown east side. We've got this drainage thing coming off the roof on the corner there that you know, will get you pretty good. And believe it or not, that's more than that. That's what some people have down here, and they don't even have that because who could even do that? But around the world and throughout history, we are very, very fortunate human beings at this time. If you're watching this on some sort of a TV screen, if you're sitting in a room that's insulated and safe, you know, and you've got food and what you need, and you know, consider yourself extremely blessed and revel in that. I highly recommend that myself. I know you do.
I'm already saying.
You're always so up and positive, and I love that about you. And I love that you're so persistent and resilient and continuing on the protest. And you understand the goal.
The day after that we got that raid that day, I went and got Patience Over Profits tattooed on my fingers.
I was looking at the gold ring.
Oh, it just says I am enough. It's just
nice.
Promise to myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Full of adages and mantras. I 100% believe in that. You know, everything that approaches me, I've got some sort of a little thing to say about it that puts it into a positive light.
Exactly.
I highly recommend you do that. If you don't do that, you can change, by the way. There are ways, and maybe you can't, and if not, well...
Reach out. I can help you, too. I do spiritual
enlightenment. That's all I can say is smoke weed.
Yep. And then smoke
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you for having me.
Love you.
Thanks, guys.
We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you Saturday, probably down at the park.
Oh, absolutely.
I drove by that Saturday, you know, and I was trying to get your attention. I actually yelled Erica 4 or 5 times.
I thought I heard my name at one point.
My son thought I was being crazy. He goes, "Dad, what are you doing?" I said, I just want to give her some support going by, you know. And but you were busy.
If you honk.
I think I did.
Oh.
I don't have a very good horn.
Oh, okay.
But if I had a good horn, I wouldn't want to be honking it in public like that because other cars freak out and stuff.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I feel bad. I didn't even. Sorry, I was probably really hot. Oh, I was really cold that day. Pretty sure I was.
You think you were cold? 3 Saturdays in a row. I went to see my mom instead of Sundays, which I always was doing. Thank you for coming back in.
Sorry.
You have to squeeze back in here.
That's probably it. And because of football, the Canadian tradition, you know, the CFL.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, it's been ever since I've been a little boy, hockey and football, and so now it's the CFL. And the Lions had a shot. They just didn't take advantage of it. Winnipeg managed to push it through and win. And so anyway, that's where I was going. I was late to try to pick up my mom to get that done on the Saturday.
Oh, okay.
And so, so I could watch football on the Sunday. And that's what happened. And congratulations to Winnipeg. I really, I had mixed emotions about it because I always kind of like the underdog, you know.
Toronto won.
I can't.
Oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. I didn't know who to pull for.
Oh.
Because Toronto. I mean, they're the big city. What do they need? They don't need nothing. Winnipeg, man, that's a cool place to live. You know, it's harsh to live there. I thought, you know, if you're a team playing in Winnipeg, you probably deserve to win the Grey Cup every year. So I kind of had to justify it like that, because typically I go for the underdog, but I wasn't really going for anybody. I was just an observer this year. I didn't know or care. But it turned out to be a really good game the last couple of minutes, you know, pretty exciting. And Toronto managed to pull it off by 1 point.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Toronto
yeah.
for winning the Grey Cup there. And congratulations to Winnipeg for being there and for being such a great team over the last 3 or 4 years. I hope that's over now, just for the BC Lions' sake. But but if not, like I say, you probably deserve it for living in Winnipeg. What can I say?
Yeah, right.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye. I hope that you managed to take part in the survey that we've been talking about for quite a while. Yeah, you travel
much.
Safely, try to stay warm and dry if you can, and if not, enjoy it.
Will. Thank you very much, guys, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
So Health Canada just closed people participating in a survey that they were doing to find out a little bit about Canada's legalization and what that meant to Canadians and whether or not they were doing it right was the premise of their survey. Their survey was very telling with respect to the attitude of Health Canada and the federal government with respect to Canadians and accessing cannabis. I was shocked actually by some of it, especially question 3.1 was just absolutely ridiculous. The question when it was along the lines of do you think that Canada is doing an adequate job of protecting Canadians from cannabis? And it was a multi-choice question with no ability to write in anything. You just had 4 choices. The one choice was yes, Canada is doing an adequate job of protecting Canadians from cannabis, or no, which would have, of course, implied that they should be doing a better job protecting Canadians from cannabis, or that you don't know was the third one that you could put there, that you really just don't know whether or not they're doing an adequate job of protecting Canadians from cannabis or not. And the fourth choice that they gave you was that you could just say that you preferred not to share your thoughts on that. So you prefer not to say. Well, those are the 4 choices you're given. Well, I'll tell you, the answer is not yes, because there's no need to protect Canadians from cannabis other than on the concentrates and the edibles to have them available in storefronts with proper labels, including standardized dosing and a warning about starting low and going slow. That's all that needs to be done. We do not need the police out there using their resources to protect people from other people who are growing plants in their basements or who happen to be selling cannabis to their friends and neighbors, or any other fashion of any sort. We do not need to be protected from cannabis as Canadians, other than what I mentioned. Concentrates and edibles should be available in storefronts and be properly labeled with respect to dosaging, and going slow. So yes is not the right question to that. No is not the right question to that. Because if you're saying, no, we're not being adequately protected from cannabis, I mean, I'm sure that means that they need to step it up a bit. Maybe have another little arm of the police. We could call them maybe the Ganja Eliminators, or Gestapo for short. No, we do not need increased enforcement with respect to trying to protect Canadians from this extremely beneficial and benign plant that's in our environment here. It is not the scourge that alcohol is. It is not the scourge that commercial tobacco is. It is not the scourge that the prescription drugs are when abused, and even when used properly happen to do a lot of damage to people. It's a whole other story. Maybe we'll do that on a show. Let's talk about the damage caused by pharmaceutical drugs, the deaths that are caused by pharmaceutical drugs that are not reported properly by doctors, being under no obligation to do that, and it not being in their best interests. I mean, talk about some sort of a conspiracy. That's what's going on as well. But the answer to that question was not yes. We are being adequately protected from cannabis. It was not no, that we require more enforcement. It's not I don't know, because I certainly do know that the problems associated with cannabis are all about its lack of access and over-regulation, and that if there was low barrier access cannabis stores, what you'll probably need to say is reasonable access. I kind of like that one. Reasonable access should mean low barrier. It shouldn't mean that you have to go into these government licensed stores, go through all of their hoops, and pay those enormous prices. Reasonable access should already imply low barrier access. But low barrier access in storefronts is the answer to the problems associated with cannabis, which are all about accessing it in the face of overregulation and restrictions. So that question was a real indication of the agenda of Health Canada and the federal government with respect to Canadians accessing cannabis. They think that you need all kinds of taxpayer-funded protections from cannabis. Another one was about whether we think we're being adequately protected by there being a 4-plant maximum on people allowed to grow where they're allowed to grow. A 4-plant maximum. Is there a maximum on how many roses you can have? How many grapes you can grow? How much wheat you could produce in your backyard? Even tobacco, I think you're allowed like 15 pounds of tobacco before it becomes anybody's business, and it never is. But the cannabis plant must be so dangerous that you can only have 4 maximum. Well, if it's dangerous at all, why would they allow you to have any, and why would people want them? I mean, we have poisonous plants that we have as house plants. Don't let your kids eat just about any of the regular house plants that you have. And you don't. And they don't. And it's not a problem. Well, every once in a while they do, actually. And then there's the poison control people, and then they deal with it. But it's not cannabis. Cannabis is not dangerous to have around kids. If they eat the leaves or eat the flowers, it's not going to hurt them. There's no psychoactivity to the flowers until it's been decarboxylated, which means heated up to a certain temperature where the THC converts into something that does provide euphoria. But other than that, safe to eat, safe to be around. But you're only allowed 4. Why then would you only be allowed to have 4? If you're allowed to have 4 and it's dangerous, then that doesn't make any sense. So it's not dangerous. The reason you're only allowed to have 4 is because they know that's not enough to really produce enough cannabis to support your family, maybe not even yourself, depending on how you grow it and all that type of stuff, or even if you can grow it. It's not that easy. And what are you going to have all 4 plants in flower all the time? You could do that, but then you got to make those 4 plants worth of flowers last until the next crop is ready. You can do all of that. It's not all that easy. And for people who need it, and that's what we talked about before, it's the people that need these things that are really the ones that are left out. They don't get to do that. The only reason is economic. It's economic. They want to force you to buy from their cartel, where you have to pay the Prime Minister $1 for every gram of cannabis that you buy through them. Yeah, it's disgusting. It's a monopoly run by our federal government in the form of a cartel with a taxpayer-funded protection racket and tight controls over the media and law enforcement and our tax dollars and anyone who would dare try to actually put a dent in what they're doing. So anyhow, what we've been doing is trying to answer back with the truth and with doing the right thing. And the right thing to do was to make sure that cannabis was part of the equation when trying to deal with this overdose epidemic. That was the right thing to do, because the truth is that cannabis is the most effective method through the high-dose edibles of getting through withdrawal. So we put together the Cannabis Substitution Program. We started handing out high-dose edibles to people. We demonstrated clearly over the course of years that it's effective and that it helps people and it gets them through withdrawal. And when we had to, we put in an application for a license to do that, because it turns out that without it, we could have been jailed for what we're doing. So we did that. We put in an application for a license, but unable to stop what we'd been doing, because by the time we had to put in a license application, we were over 3 years into doing what we'd been doing. We had hundreds of people that were relying on us to get what they needed to get off of those substances. So we couldn't quit what we were doing. I tried to touch upon this a little bit earlier in the show about what it's like when you're a dispensary owner and you've got all these people that have become friends of yours over the course of years of being able to get what it is that they need, what they can't get elsewhere, and having their issues solved that weren't being solved pharmaceutically. And now you're told to stop doing that, and you can't do it. It's unethical, immoral to say no to these people. And what would be the excuse? That you can't do it because the government says you can't do it? Well, the government always said you couldn't do it. Dispensary owners are people that went ahead and decided to provide cannabis to people that needed it in spite of federal criminal law against doing that. They risked their livelihoods, their possessions, and their time to break the law, to provide access for people who really needed it, because they knew in their hearts and in their minds that that was the right thing to do and that the government was in the wrong. And dispensary owners all across this country did that. And then they're told they have to shut down because of legalization, or they're going to be deemed illegal and they're going to be taken to task for it. Well, they were always illegal. They were always at risk of being taken to task for it. That didn't change. The government writing them a letter saying, hey, we see you and we're telling you to stop. Well, these are people that had signs up in front of their stores, get your medical cannabis here. They weren't trying to hide. They knew the risks. They were willing to break the law to help people. And now the law is telling them to stop. Well, the law always had told them to stop. So nothing changed for them. Just like for us. For 3.5 years, we'd been going and helping these people get high-dose cannabis edibles to get them off of the hard drugs. And now what? We're supposed to put in an application for a license, and until we get that license, we're supposed to stop doing what we're doing? Because, why? What we were doing, we knew was illegal in the first place. Every time I went there and met with my team of people, we all knew that the cops could roll up any time and haul us all in. And now we're supposed to stop helping the people that we've been helping for 3.5 years because the cops might roll up on us? Well, you know which choice we're going to make. Because any ethical, moral human being would have no choice but to make that choice. You have to keep helping people and just hope that somehow, at some point, some sanity enters the equation. And the government understands that what you're doing is helping people, not hurting people. And that on behalf of all Canadians, they should not be trying to stop you. They should be supporting you. You just hope that that's what's going to happen. That's what these dispensary owners hoped was going to happen. That the government was at some point going to clear their brain. Was going to lose the insanity. And that they would be brought into the mainstream and accepted as people that were helping people and allowed to keep doing what they were doing. They couldn't stop. And we can't stop either. So we continue on hoping at some point that sanity prevails and that the federal government gets it and that they get who it is that they're supposed to be working for and what it is that they're supposed to be doing for us. And that is helping the people that need it the most that can't help themselves. That's what I want my federal government to be doing with all of the scads of money that they take. What else are they doing with it? Kind of like to know that too. But I'd sure like to see them use it to help people that need help. And the poor, and especially the addicted, are the ones that need help the most. Because it's usually not much fault of their own. It's usually the circumstances they were born into. It's usually the environment that they had to survive in. And many of them barely did.
It's the traumas that drive addiction. Traumatized people. Got a bit of a cough. I'm sure you noticed. They're the ones who we really need to have helped. And instead, the federal government thinks it's okay to waste all this time and money trying to stop people who are trying to help. I don't know if I can get more upset. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what the courts say. I'm losing my voice. Coughed myself into tears, although maybe
you okay?
Maybe there was some emotion there too. Yeah, I've had some upper respiratory thing going on for the last few days. It's going on here. It's keeping me from getting a good night's sleep so far.
Oh wow.
But time being what it is,
yep.
I think we've pretty much covered things. The point of all that is for people who haven't seen the show before, by the way. The point of it is, we are running this program for all this time where we provide these things to people as an option to get them off the hard drugs. We did it from the storefront for 5.5 months before we had to be evicted for not having a license. We did it from an RV for just over 2 years, parked right out front here. And now that RV has been firebombed by we don't know who. I mean, I suspect there was profit motive involved in doing that. It's an extreme act of violence. But we haven't been told that that's the case, so we don't really know. For now, we're operating under a tent because, as I've mentioned several times, we cannot stop doing what we're doing. We cannot stop having this available for people. I must bring in another vehicle if the city won't provide us some ability to be in a storefront. And that's where we're at. The program continues. We're also fighting in court to see where that goes and see if we can get some justice there. But in the meantime, as we always do, we're going to go outside, have a quick look out there, just briefly, because I know people want to see what's happening here. And other than just the talking heads, this is the real reality part of the show. Our weekly weather report from Vancouver is, it was a wet day today.
Oh, it's wet.
It looks like the wind has died down. It doesn't appear to be raining right now. And so that's great. We've got people coming up the sidewalk that we don't want to be filming at this point. There's a courthouse and a police station right up ahead here. So lots of times there's people that have to get escorted up there. So we'll turn this way just to make sure that we give the proper due respect. And then I'll do a little loop around. Okay, good to see you. So that's the police doing their job. Police arresting us, investigating us, taking away our RV, which they did give back, thankfully. All of that was not them doing their job. All of that was an absolute outrageous, horrific expenditure of taxpayer dollars that should not have happened whatsoever. Sure, send one representative or maybe two to come and talk to me, and I'll tell you everything you need to know about what it is we're doing here and why we're doing it, and then you can take that information and do what you want with it. But to have a several month-long investigation and all that cost and all that you can see that cost, that's not the police doing their job. So here we are. This is the Healing Wave Cannabis Substitution Project tent. A little bit of deja vu because when the police took our RV back in May for 5 weeks, we had a similar thing going on. It wasn't as cold, as wet, or as windy as what it is now, of course, but it was still pretty cold out there. And this is our little humble abode. How's it going in here?
Oh, a little bit chilly today, but other than that, we're doing pretty good. What a chipper.
Now what do you do when CSP people come here?
Oh,
there's no RV back door to knock on, so they have to come here, and you're just taking their number. And although we don't have the numbers anymore, do we?
No, we don't even know who.
Because we lost all that stuff in the fire. Wow. So it used to be that you'd come and knock on the door with a secret knock, and
you would tell us your number, and the number would correspond with you, that you were a member, and you could get your 420 milligrams. So what do we do now? We just trust people. We recognize a bunch of them. Most of them, but you know, you haven't been working for us for that long. You might not know all of them.
Nope.
So we've got people now coming up and randomly giving numbers sometimes. So there's the odd one sneaking by like that.
Tried to sneak by. Where your coworker, my coworker that was working that day, actually caught on
them because the day before they'd been there with a different number. And we do need to protect our ability to help all of those people that we're helping. We can't have somebody taking too much of an advantage of us. But I'll tell you, our policy here is to err on the side of compassion. If there's any doubt, they get their 420, and if they really need it, they're going to get another one anyway. You know, we're not here to turn people away that are really struggling, but we do have to have some controls and boundaries on what we do here, because there's a lot of people that would really take advantage, and then we would have less ability to help all the other people that need it as well. So we have that going on. And what do we have for people these days?
We got some gummies here. We got some wonderful toffee, THC pills, caps.
30 days pills. We've got Somewhere in Neverland's toffees. We've got some Mary's toffee.
Some Gorilla Ganja.
Gorilla Ganja is awesome.
Some CBD.
Green Wilderness stuff is always in the mix. John Murray's muffins. We don't have any more of his cookies right now. He's baking as we speak.
And then we've got the teddy bears, which are really popular products. Really popular products. A lot of people.
And they come in 5 milligram doses, which is important because a lot of people don't need that much. I wouldn't say a lot. In this neighborhood, with the people that we're helping, most of them need relatively high doses of cannabis, not in the thousands like Miss Medibles and some of the people, but you know, fairly high dosage, but not everybody. For some people, you know, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams is enough of a dose that they need to get through the next few hours, and so it's great that Green Wilderness puts out these 5 milligram gummies, and we can have those for people as well. So that's kind of what's going on. We've got the raffle where people can buy tickets and for $10 get entered into the contest to win one of those advent calendars. They're worth hundreds of dollars with all sorts of great cannabinoids in there. If you want to do that, freedomtour06 at hotmail.com. Send me $10 for a ticket or more if you want, and I'll give you more tickets. That's $10 a ticket, basically, minimum amount. And we'll update you next week with how we're progressing with that. We'll have done the draw the day before, but we'll announce the winner on next week's show. Get in on that if you can. Go to our Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook, the Cannabis Substitution Program, or Neil Magnuson. You can probably go to Glenn Wells' page and get everything you need there as well. Thanks to Cannabis Culture for giving me the opportunity and the platform to do this, to Pot TV, of course. Thanks to all the people that are watching this that have helped us out in any way. Thanks for just watching anyway, and especially if you're going to spread the news and do something. We really like to ask people to do something. It's a valuable thing for us. If people speak up, if they write a letter or send an email or make a phone call or even have a conversation, it can go a long way in helping us in our struggles to be able to do a really good thing here, without any doubt. The people that we're helping here are people that really deserve help. They've had life turn on them in a number of different ways. Most of them it's a result of childhood traumas that they've been trying to deal with ever since. They're preyed upon by an uncaring government. They're preyed upon by drug dealers and other people that try to exploit them for what they can get out of them. And we're here to try to help that situation. We're trying to address a number of different things here. We've got the Tubes and Dubes event coming up. There's a fundraiser for that, and we'd really appreciate some help, because so far it's out of our pockets to make this work. But we're going to give away a lot of socks. We're going to give away some doobies and some other things as people are giving us clothing and other things to handle, like we always do at Christmas time, have done for years here. You can be a part of that. You can be a part of all of this. Just allow yourself to spend a little bit of time, a little bit of money, whatever you can, whatever works. Help us out. We really need to be able to convince government that they need to have low barrier access cannabis stores. This is all about the quest for a low barrier access cannabis store in your community and everywhere, because why not? Why do we need to have barriers in place of citizens accessing a plant can be grown easily and provided at reasonable cost, way more reasonable than talking about by the gram. And with your help, we can achieve a much better world through this. So thanks again to everybody for watching. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, as you go about doing all of that, you know the key, you know the best thing to do. Have as much fun as you can.